coats or shoes? Who could run faster? Who could run farther? The vast field, the stitches, the endless white. I don't really like the microphone very much, you can tell. Let's see. I'm just going to read a couple of poems from history and Bloom, and then I'll read some new work that's kind of work in process. The title's also the first line of this poem. When I walk the path I've worn between the warehouse and the store, my past and future collide like a bad carnival ride. My hand truck is heavy with regret, lost hours, days sprinkled with the dark foot of micromanagement. I watch the cashiers who are talking again, talking and asking customers if they're enjoying their day. One of the younger cashiers wears an illegal shirt. Her beautiful armpits are revealed in all their tender glory. I can hear a delivery truck rumbling down the scarred gravel alleyway. I try to think of labor as a kind of workout. Meanwhile, the truck driver is grousing about routing again. The general manager complains about payroll. New workers are sluggish, awash in the hurry of barely enough. The tender mounds. The long drive home was like a paper cut. The interstate had been swallowed by fog and the big trucks. I can almost see the dark outline of cows in the clover fields. On nights such as this, there's something to be said for strong fences, but there's no way to get even in this life. The darkness builds and builds until one day you're swimming along and a log bumps the tender mounds under your scalp. Things could be better. I still want to reach into the city of your body and find a star. Last night, I could hear the 3:30 a.m. freight train rumbling through town, its lonely whistle as clear as death. I have to give my oldest son credit for probably one of the better lines in the poem. Let me find it again. One day we're sitting on the porch or the stoop of our house. He's like 4 or 5 years old, and he just looks over at me and says, "I still want to reach into the city of my body and find a star." And of course, I ran inside and wrote it down, because who wouldn't do that if you're trying to write poems? My God. Anyway, maybe I'll find another one in here to read. I kind of like this poem. Welding School. I went to welding school the day after high school graduation. You know, I'm from Indiana. A lot of kids, go to Florida or New Orleans or Atlanta. I went to welding school in a steel mill the next day after high school graduation. Anyway, the steel mill was dark. Once a man tripped into the blast furnace, a vat of white-hot foundry cast iron, and was gone in a flash of light. One afternoon, a heavy casting fell from a ceiling crane used to move cast iron gear housings through the big building, nearly tearing off a poor man's leg above the knee. Dad like to tell how he held the dangling limb for the doctor when no one else could. Okay. Oh, gosh. I'm going to read a prose poem. It's called Curfew. We had been camping out in a friend's backyard, just an excuse, really, to run all over town after curfew. We were hungry and bored with the cold streets and unlit alleyways. Our neighbor drank and drove his tired pickup around town. He owned a monkey, but only because it was mean. His wife worked hard for almost no money. Then there was her daughter from another marriage. She couldn't speak. She didn't attend school. It was 1963, and special ed hadn't come to our township. I can't remember the girl's name. She was tall, big-boned, a little heavy. When we walked up the hill to where my parents lived, Larry could see the girl's bedroom light. He smirked as he crept toward her window. The girl was naked when he looked through her barely open curtains, naked and standing near the door to her small room. Larry began to hoot. I yelled, "Shut up." I was expecting Dad to return any minute from the bowling alley. It was said around Old Town, the drunken stepfather had compromised the girl over and over. When she began to pleasure herself against the rough metal doorknob, gripping the door's edge in her hand, pulling it back and forth against her dim surface, Larry pressed his lips tight to suppress a squeal, half youthful delight, half unimaginable surprise. I'll read something a little lighter next. I said I wouldn't read dark stuff, but I'm going to anyway. Indian Summer. Everyone adores Van Gogh. Even you couched in front of the television set, but Van Gogh was not the subject here. There were wild onions in the bunch grass across the road from my father's country house, and mules hee-hawed on a nearby hillside. Often I followed my shadow's light along the trails, and using a stick to turn the leaves, the neighbor kids trudging ahead of me, I gathered snails in a tarnished tin cup. Oh boy. Okay. This poem is called Bridge. Something was pushing me out of Father's slow-moving car. I could see whirlpools below and imagined being pulled under by the current, arms flailing like a man falling from a tall building. Pig lots, cows in the distance announced themselves with the wind. Too scared to dive for mussels with the other boys, I thought of forgotten canal mules walking purposefully along the levee as they tugged barges down or up river. I wanted to fit in or to go unnoticed, a river tunneling through the days. Okay, it's bastard. This is called Bastard. Dad was born the year before she was, in Georgetown or Westville, or one of the dirty little towns on the narrow road that bleeds south out of Danville, Illinois. Mom didn't have a chance. The Depression tore through the western Indiana countryside like a tornado. Hate can be a kind of stain. She used to talk about how her parents refused to buy black market sugar. Backbone wasn't scarce in that torn-apart landscape. Corn tassels teasing the wind, field after level field. She never met her real father. I remember Dad mimicking a chicken in our prefab kitchen, how he got right in Mom's face. Flour was cheap in 31 if you had work. Dust covered everything, dust and want. Okay. This is called Bloom and Bloom and Bloom. I picked wildflowers at a rest park in Wyoming, tied them to the rearview mirror to remind myself where I'd been. Truckers roared past me in the dead of night. I practiced courtesy, dimming my lights, slowing so that I wanted them to pass. The radio wouldn't play in the Rockies, so I drove with the vents open and the windows down into Nebraska. I drove for hours without saying a word, slept without dreaming. In the morning, farms in Iowa and Illinois were a blur, but that night I saw him, Dad, shirtless in dim porch light, holding the screen door open, welcoming me after 10 long years with a look. He's thin now, thinner than I'd imagined. 2 lines sweep across his burl chest. There's a third along the base of his neck, where a doctor, a stranger to me, has done his work. But there, in the doorway, Dad's eyes glowed. They glowed wild and calm at once. Their light dissolving the years and the distances I put between us, dissolving the war and miles of interstate and mountains and prairie. The flowers from along the interstate bloom and bloom and bloom as if out of their own ashes or their own forgotten past that will not die. Just slightly unorganized because of a bad day. I know what I want to read next, if I can just find it. Well, I'll read this instead. This is kind of an old poem, but I've sort of pulled it out of a box recently and made some changes. It's called Unemployment, 7th Month, 1985. Couldn't find the job in 85. Anyway, I rest now while the fire hisses and pops, wood scraps from a neighborhood building site, almost too damp to catch, but a little coaxing and torn pieces from a newspaper, and my breath give warmth and a sensation, wood smoke tunneling through my loneliness. Too close, like the fist opening inside my gut, as the unmarked cruiser rolled over loose gravel in the alleyway. I just stood there, fitting 2x4 pieces into a grocery bag. I didn't feel suspicious, and cradling the load tight against my chest, I emerged, upright, into the street, like a good worker. Come on, I know I've got that poem with me. Man, I don't have that. Okay. Jury-rigged. I sleep face down on the warm couch between a pile of unfolded clothes and a blue book pack with paper clips. Oh gosh. Sorry, I gotta start again. I sleep face down on the warm couch between a pile of unfolded clothes and a blue book pack. Paper clips hold the middle compartment shut. I am shut. I am weary of unwanted emails. My arms are tired from daydreaming of flight. I met with a woman the other day. She had called about work as an intern. I told her there was work of a kind, but that I couldn't pay her for her time or what she knew or didn't know about flightless birds. I've grown distracted by this small burg no one from New York or LA thinks of as a city. We are not a city at all. We are too trifling, which is another way of saying too like ourselves after sunset. When the day when the day turns, I become full of stink and ambition. I'm not fit for the kiss young girls dream of. I walk everywhere I go. I'm called into the dark. I am the dark, the night, the waking dream. Nightfall on the edge of town, the ringing in your ears. I'm the rough side. I'm the inside out. For laughs I tell you everything but what I feel. And here's the poem I was looking for earlier and couldn't find. Morning birds. It's about riding my bike to work in the morning. Morning birds. A long day has folded into itself, like a dream a boy has of his life as a man. On cold, rainy mornings, the slow curve of the hill turns into signposts, weary memories. Hidden in the trees, a chorus of morning birds flutter and sing. Oh, now I'm really going to risk absurdity and read some 6-word stories. I've been playing around with a 6-word story format. We'll see. 7 days, only imagined, never understood. These aren't linked or anything. I'm just going to, read 5 in a row. Sunday school, little brother, still scared. Night shift, cold coffee, lit cigarette. Dark plan, sudden downturn, sad apology. Young girl, short skirt, warm night. Okay. I'm not sure about this one. It's kind of practice. It's called Misstep, and there are lines taken from an essay that I read by the cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman, and there's a line from Sartre. And the essay that I read by Hoffman was titled "The Evolutionary Argument Against Reality." So already, I don't know what's going on at all. The evolutionary argument against reality, and what it's about really is it, what time is it? Oh, it's almost 7. Because we can't rely on our perception, we're so flawed that nothing is real. Nothing is real. Because we can't rely on our eyes to connect us to, nothing's real. Anyway.
But it's almost 7 o'clock.
I know. I'm going to keep reading though for a couple of minutes. I apologize for being out of touch. The days reach all the way to the horizon. Evolution shapes acceptable solutions. Experience precedes essence. Time is a snake and a train and one big illusion. What is that special magic beyond the machine? Arbitrary complexity? There is no brain. Only the real feeling of a headache. Only the real taste of dark chocolate. The ordinary, the moment. These thoughts have carried me this far. So I know I'm sort of out of time, but I'm going to read a couple more poems anyway. Well, just one. Just one more. And the title, the first line and the title are the same. I thought you knew what the late hours could bring. We should take a chance in spite of the dust settling on everyone's glimpse of the unbearable pain of our dreams, alive in the shattered light. Thanks for listening.